Hello, my name is Jeff Smith, and I am your child's third grade math teacher. I would like to welcome you to my math classroom and to this presentation. I will be giving you insight into how Common Core standards fit in my classroom, what are some of the primary math skills I will be focusing on, some of the routines that I do, the manipulatives I enjoy using, and lastly, what technology tools I use. After watching this slideshow, if you have any further questions, please feel free to email me anytime. My email address can be found on my website at jeffsmith.weebly.com. So let's dive right into our Common Core state standards. In my math class, as I do in all my subjects, I use Common Core standards to drive my instruction. The South Dakota Common Core math standards do a great job of giving teachers a guideline of what to teach, but leaves it up to the teachers as how to teach the material. There is a common misconception with people that the government made these state standards and dictate how the teachers teach them as well. Well, that is not the case. They are simply benchmarks and guidelines that teachers use to assist their instruction. Within my classroom, I dissect and break down the math standards to fit around the style of learning of my students, which allow for the best learning possible. This includes manipulatives such as blocks, graphic organizers, and of course technology to assist students in becoming proficient with the Common Core standards. I determine the best way of going through the standards and change it as we go, if needed. Next, there are essential two parts to the Common Core state standards, which are practices and content. The practices are used for every grade, which include making sense of problems, using that reasoning to construct arguments and critiquing, modeling mathematics, and using appropriate tools. I will be seeking to develop all these practices with my students, which will help me to teach the content, which are distinct from each grade. So in my third grade class, I will focus my instructional time on four critical areas. The first one includes developing the understanding and strategies of multiplication and division within 100. Secondly, developing the understanding of fractions with the emphasis on unit fractions. Thirdly, developing understanding of the structure of rectangular arrays. And lastly, defining and evaluating two-dimensional shapes. Within these four critical areas of third grade Common Core math standards, I will be teaching 5 subsets that will help students to understand and apply these areas. They are operations and algebraic thinking, number and operations in base 10, number and operations with fractions, measurement and data, and lastly, geometry. All this may seem like a bit much, but that's what the great's about the Common Core standards, because it gives me a guideline to teach my students. As I said before, the Common Core standards tell educators what to teach, but does not tell us how to teach it, which is the most important part to remember. In order to teach the third grade standards, I implement routines and rituals into my classroom that motivate and engage students into math. For instance, every day before we begin math, I deliver a real-world math problem for students to talk about and use their problem-solving skills to find a solution. First, students will try to understand the problem and truly break down what it really is asking and looking for. Next, they devise a plan to solve the problem. Most of the problems we work on will have multiple correct answers, and this allows students to open their minds and discover many ways to problem solve. Followed by implementing a solution plan once they have chosen a way of figuring out the problem and then set the plan. Then they find the solution. Lastly, they reflect on their answers and we discuss, as a class, the answers and possible right and wrong answers and why as well. My students and I really love this routine because of the real-world situations that we get to talk about in class and the creativity and discussions we get to have while doing them. The next routine that I enjoy doing is more about me asking the right questions and using communication to provide students an opportunity for deeper understanding. I call this Math Talk. Math Talk is a strategy that I use to find out what the students understand or may not, through asking appropriate questions such as asking a student to explain or justify how they got the answer and why they chose to do it that way. I can also ask students if they agree or disagree with another student by having them add a constructive reason to the response. By asking questions, I am encouraging students to explore different ideas, strategies, procedures, and facts. I enjoy this routine and I believe it is critical in my teaching because it reveals understanding and misunderstanding, it boosts memory, supports deeper reasoning, builds language development, and social skills. These routines assist in the way I approach teaching math to my students. The biggest things that I want my students to believe is that everyone can do math and can be successful doing it. That being said, it is my job to motivate and challenge students to commit in the learning of math. As I do my math talk, I use optimistic words and statements to assess my students and while keeping them positive about math. Next, I use daily math problems to engage students and get them to think about math in a way that is different than usual, such as using statistics from the football game the night before to help with fractions or determine how long it would take for a penny to hit the ground if we dropped it from the Empire State Building. These questions are a great way of challenging students and allowing them to think in a different way. My second approach to teaching math is allowing students to practice, practice, practice. We have all heard the saying of practice makes perfect, and it is no different in my classroom. Students must be given the chance to practice what I have given them, and it's my job to differentiate my instruction to their needs. All of these are a part of my approach to teaching math, but what about the students who may be still struggling with math? Well, this is when I add manipulatives or modes of representatives to help struggling and non-struggling students. Some manipulatives include fraction strips, counting cubes, base 10 blocks, dice, digit cards, and geometric shapes of different colors and sizes. I use manipulatives to help students develop a conceptual understanding of mathematical ideas by representing the ideas in multiple ways and engaging them. By using these, students are able to visually and physically do the math problems, which help to understand why and what is the mathematical idea they are doing. It is important that I choose the appropriate manipulatives and that it meets the specific goal that I am teaching. I must allow time for students to use them before adding them to the problem so students are familiar with them. Within my classroom, I use many different types of manipulatives to help students explore the questions and understand that there are many ways to answer mathematical ideas. Along with manipulatives in my classroom, I also like to use technology tools to assist my teaching. Technology can be fun and useful as long as I use it in an appropriate manner that will assist my students' learning. As you know, we are a one-to-one school, which means that we have one technology device for each student, and we are fortunate to have iPads in our classroom. I take full advantage of this and incorporate many different math applications to motivate, give practice time, and assess my students. Students are motivated by the math games that they get to play on the iPads, such as Math Doodles, Quick Math, and Math Slide. All these apps are a wonderful tool to get students motivated and engaged in math while allowing me to differentiate their math skills. These apps allow me to change their settings to fit the needs of each student, which is a great way to save instructional time in class. Next, I am using a program called Seesaw, which is a free program that allows me to capture student learning and organize it into student portfolios. I will set up the classroom, and you parents are able to log on and see the artifacts that the students and I have stored onto their portfolios. This is a great way for me to communicate with you about your child's learning and a glimpse into their days. Students love putting up pictures and videos of projects and daily work so parents can see exactly what they're doing in the classroom. And parents enjoy seeing more than just a report card when they get their student's portfolio. So let's move on to some common questions that parents have asked me before. First, why do students have to spend time explaining how they did problems? Well, this goes back to the math talk that I discussed earlier. I want students to spend time explaining to me how they did problems so I get an understanding of what they know and where they are in the procedure. It helps me determine if they used the right process and did not just stumble onto the correct answer. Secondly, it allows them to verbally explain their ideas to expand their knowledge. Students must be able to communicate their ideas in an appropriate way that others can understand them. And lastly, I have noticed a decline of guessing and cheating. My students know that I am going to ask them how and why they did the problem the way that they did, and brings a sense of ownership and responsibility to the students. Students become responsible for the work, and guessing is not going to help. Next question is, do they do math on the computer? Well, absolutely. With the iPads in the classroom, it is easy and time effective for students to do math on the computer. It is a great manipulative for students and brings excitement into my classroom. Students are able to use math applications to practice their math skills as their learning ability. And it is fun for me to see my students enjoying and excelling in math. Well, I would like to thank you again for spending some time with me as I explained to you a little about my math classroom and what will be going on this year. I'm very excited to begin this year and looking forward to meeting with one of you, all of you. Like I said before, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me anytime. Thank you.